Hello again. Welcome back to the second video in this 4-part series, How Do We Heal Injection Injuries? Today I am excited to introduce you to your true vital signs, the cellular metabolic template I use in my holistic healthcare practice to assess my clients' cellular needs and develop their personal healing protocols. Before we begin, I want to remind you that I have created a PDF outline for this video series, which is available for download on my website. You can use this PDF to take notes and easily follow along with the content I will be sharing. So if you haven't done so already, I recommend going to my website and downloading your own copy. All right, moving forward. I want to recap a couple key points I made in the previous video and give you some inspiring background about the template you'll be learning about in this educational series. In that video, it was my intention to support you in establishing very basic self-healing 101 conceptual knowledge. 1. Why it is so prudent and wise to pay special close attention to whether or not your cells can receive nutrition and release waste. And 2, that you alone have the greatest influence and control over their ability to do so. Having this foundational understanding will support you in the wisdom I desire to impart to you throughout this series. Now, some background information about the template. The cellular metabolic template, which I call Your True Vital Signs, was developed by a magnificent and extraordinarily loving soul, the late Fervardi Bredenbach. She was a Sufi master who used her meditative training to work as one of the world's finest medical intuitives. She had a 90+% accuracy rate in diagnosing and effectively treating complex diseases, and her gifts were acknowledged and relied upon within the traditional medical establishment, where she was able to offer keen insight into cases which baffled them. During her 30+ years working as a healer, assessing numerous health challenges, she began to recognize there were common and pervasive underlying cellular issues that were necessary to address in order for her clients to heal. And she was able to create a template to track and monitor certain parameters that could correct these issues. Amongst many other things, Fervardi was also a master homeopath and co-authored the Arizona exams for professional homeopathic state licensure. She also wrote and published books to share her profound knowledge and wisdom, one of which is called Homeopathy and the Art of Permanent Cure. She also worked as a spiritual advisor and midwife. I met Fervardi and began working with this template in 2009, and I want to share a little bit about the physical, psychological, and spiritual condition I was in at that time. I had gone through a very rapid autoimmune disease progression, which I would later discover was caused by the toxic chemicals of pharmaceutical medications, which the traditional medical establishment at large would deny. In a matter of months after beginning to take medication, my overall health dramatically changed, and in a mere 2 years, my adrenals were approaching failure. I had lost the ability to digest food and was emaciated. I had pain all over my body. My brain, spinal cord, and nervous systems were extensively damaged, so damaged I was losing the ability to speak coherently and suffered relentless insomnia. I lived with constant feelings of terror and felt internally like I was plugged directly into an electrical socket, barely functional and traumatized by my deteriorating condition. I developed extreme phobias, which began bordering on psychosis. Doing anything overwhelmed me, and my will to live was fading. So I mostly stayed confined to my house, where I could barely get out of bed, let alone walk, and a wheelchair seemed imminent. Now, prior to meeting Farvardi, I had been flailing for several years, seeking answers to why my health was utterly deteriorating. I had consulted numerous medical and healing professionals, and no one seemed to know what was happening to me. I had taken all the pharmaceutical medications, supplements indicated for my conditions, but nothing I tried produced long-term relief from my suffering. I was not healing, and my health just got progressively worse. As I worked closely with Farvardi over the next 2 to 3 years and implemented the personal insights and directions her vital signs template offered me, I was able to heal my body completely. I didn't know that I could heal my organs, brain, nervous system, or spinal cord. And I hadn't even allowed myself the luxury of even considering I'd be able to think straight, talk, write, or dance again. I would have simply settled for less suffering. But I didn't get just less suffering. I ended up advancing my health beyond what I had ever known or imagined possible. And I accomplished all of this with very, very minimal supplementation, just me, and my ability to change the metabolic capacity of my cells. As it relates to my personal experience using this template, I would also like to share a little bit about my daughter Dane's healing story. Dane was born with an underdeveloped autonomic nervous system. At first, the dangers of her condition were not so apparent, but around the age of 1, she started passing out, going unconscious, and turning blue multiple times a day. These episodes became more and more frequent and eventually led to her having a seizure. These episodes frightened and utterly traumatized her, and I felt such desperation facing the reality that her very fragile system could not sustain the taxing effects of this degree and amount of neurological and psychological distress. After many tests, including round-the-clock cardiac monitoring, no medical doctor or cardiologist could explain, find reason for, or treat her condition, and it was Farvardi that finally was able to explain, diagnose, and offer me healing insight. Through her, I learned that Dane suffered emotional dysregulation from an underdeveloped autonomic nervous system that could be treated, healed via her digestive system. And I was able to correct and completely heal her conditions over the course of only 1.5 years, simply by focusing on her true vital signs, monitoring and improving her cellular metabolic health, and using simple foods as her medicine. She is 11 years old now and has not experienced any of these health issues since she was 4. On that note, I'll stop with my personal experience. I feel really inspired to share one last thing before we move on. Vardi became my mentor and teacher, and I am so grateful for the 12 years I spent absorbing her knowledge. She passed away very recently, and while she was in hospice care, I shared with her that I was helping people heal injection injuries. I found myself situated within a deep reverence and awareness that through me, her life's work and accomplishments would be available for so many of you at such a critical time as this. So I just want to pause for a moment to honor her as I acknowledge for myself that I wouldn't be healthy or perhaps even alive today if it weren't for the knowledge, wisdom, and expertise of her cellular metabolic healing insight. And I feel utterly blessed to be offering this to you now. I hope by sharing this background, you will be inspired to actually endeavor actively to learn as much as you can about your true vital signs from this video series. All right, let's move on. When someone comes to me wanting assistance healing their injection injuries, while I am concerned about understanding the symptoms and mechanisms that have been primarily damaged and are the source of their painful symptoms, this is not where I place my initial attention. There are also incredibly beneficial and essential protocols which can immediately begin on working on a mere superficial level. For example, clearing easily accessible things such as toxins freely circulating in the blood, but I don't begin there either. I will first and foremost focus on assessing their cellular metabolic health, because the symptoms and health challenges the injured are presenting are issues that are indicative of extensive cellular damage. And healing these damages, I know, places tremendous burden on their cellular structure. And therefore, it is the cellular structure that must, first and foremost, be immediately coddled. I know, as you are beginning to as well, just how critical it is to ascertain what theirs or your cells require in the way of foundational support. And I want you to be able to discern and guide my clients as to what they can begin doing to accomplish this foundational support on their own. And I want you to be able to do this as well. Let's now talk about this cellular metabolic template before we wrap up this video. This template consists of 6 basic internal factors which significantly support or suppress the vitality of your cells and their ability to repair themselves. These 6 factors are as follows. 1, pH. 2, toxic load. 3, hydration. 4, vital force. 5, stress. And 6, happiness. These 6 simple internal factors are your true vital signs, as they are most often and in all actuality the source of the vitals of heart rate and blood pressure scores, routinely assessed during intake exams by medical doctors. I refer to them as a cellular metabolic template because 1. They dramatically affect your cell's basic functions. 2. When these factors fall into certain parameters, your cells can do what they inherently know how and are designed to do. 3. If these certain parameters can be established and maintained for a lengthy period of time, healing miracles become possible. When these parameters are sustained, deep and thorough detoxification and nourishment becomes possible, and all other forms of intervention, be it herb, supplement, or vitamin, will become exponentially more potent and effective. So with that basic introduction to your vital signs, I'm going to end this video. In the next video, we will dive deeply into each of these factors individually, exploring precisely how each affects your cellular vitality. Thank you for listening, and I hope you will continue learning and empowering your ability to take charge of your healing journey and its outcome. You are worth it.